أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
That unique language, unrelated to all the families of languages around Georgia. But these people then spoke to him and said to him, O Zulkarnain, surely Gog and Magog are perpetrating acts of fasad in our land, corrupting and destroying. Can you help us? Can you build a barrier in this pass between the mountains to keep them out? Zulkarnain should have said, I don't need to build any barrier, I've got power. I'll just go in there and beat the living daylights out of them. Because he has the power, Allah gave him the power. But he didn't do that. He agreed to build a barrier, indicating that they also had power. And there were limitations to his power in relation to them. There's something mysterious going on here. There are lessons to be learned by a mind and a heart which is restless, to use the Quran to explain the world today. They said, we'll pay you. He said, I don't need your money. And then we left the Quran and we went to Sahih Muslim. And in Sahih Muslim, Allah said Hadieths al-Qudsi about Gog and Magog, which explains why Zulkarnain agreed to build the barrier. I have created creatures of mine so powerful that none but I can destroy them. These creatures, when they are released into the world, with their power, would utilize that power given to them by Allah to fulfill a mission Allah has given to them. And that mission, that function is there in the verse in Surah Al-A'raf. وَإِذْ تَأَذَّنَ رَبُّكَ لَيَبْعَثَنَّ عَلَيْهِمْ إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ مَنْ يَسُومُهُمْ سُوءَ الْعَذَابِ. And your Lord has announced He's now going to release into the world those who are going to inflict upon them until the last day the worst possible punishment. So you cannot destroy them, not until the last day. Gog and Magog, of course, are human beings, not some strange creatures with airs from here to San Fernando and tall from here to the clouds. They are human beings. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, they are Banu Adam. Banu Adam, human beings. So Zulkarnain says, okay, I'll build a barrier. But bring me blocks of iron, zubarul hadid. Bring me blocks of iron. Hadid is something strange. Hadid is not only a businessman in Port of Spain. We have lots of Hadid in Port of Spain, Syrian and Lebanese businessmen with the name Hadid. But Allah says about Hadid in the Quran, iron, Hadid is iron. Something strange, He says, and He's not said this about any other mineral substance on earth, about any other metal. He said, وَأَنزَلْنَا الْحَدِيدِ and we sent down iron. Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari rahimahullah, in his book Quranic Foundations and Structure of Muslim Society, and we still have the Pakistani edition, and it belonged to Maulana Sulaimani, and he's selling it at a very reasonable price. وَأَنزَلْنَا الْحَدِيدِ, Maulana Ansari says this may indicate that iron did not constitute part of the original constitution of the earth, and that iron came subsequently, perhaps through a meteorite, in accordance with the divine plan, strikes the earth. وَأَنزَلْنَا الْحَدِيدِ. So bring me blocks of iron. And with the blocks of iron he built a barrier which barred the pass between the two mountains. And after he had built the barrier, he said, now blow with your bellows. And he took copper, which would prevent the iron from rusting. We got some engineers here as well. And then the molten copper was poured on the iron barrier. And when it was built, he said, as Alexander the Great could not have said, have you got peanuts in your head? How could Alexander say, هذا رحمة من ربي? This barrier is built in accordance with Allah's rahmah, because of Allah's kindness. Now listen to what follows. Could never have come from the lips of Alexander. فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي. But when that time comes of which my Lord has warned, when Allah is ready to now release into the world those who are now going to inflict upon them until the last day the worst possible punishment, سوء العذاب. فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ رَبِّ جَعَلَهُ دَكَّاءَ. Allah is going to bring down the barrier. And Allah's warning will then come to pass. Then follows an ayah which qualifies perhaps as the most difficult in the whole Quran. Allah then says, after Zulkarnain said, هذا رحمة من ربي فإذا جاء وعد ربي جعله دكاء وكان وعد ربي حقا. Allah then says, وتركنا بعدهم يومئذ يموج في بعض. There's nothing in the Quran as difficult as this. You have to study a lot of international politics to be able to penetrate this. وَتَرَكْنَا بَعْضَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ يَمُوجُ فِي بَعْضٍ. Yamuj, mauj is a wave. When the barrier is brought down and Gog and Magog are released, then a day will begin, and a day with Allah could be like 1,000 years in your counting, eh? At the conclusion of which Gog and Magog are going to come against each other, like waves crashing against each other. A Gog and Magog confrontation, a Gog and Magog fight it out. The Bible speaks about that. And so this appears to be one of the meanings. That at the end of history there's going to be a catastrophic collision between two forces of equal power and indestructible power. Two forces that are equally powerful. When we leave the Quran and go back to the Hadith, we find about Gog and Magog that they are people whose power, this is back in the Quran, in the Ya'juj